Hello. So today, we are back with another Chainsaw Man stream. I was honestly surprised by this one, in how chill it was, if that makes sense. I expected us to go right into all the fallout of what we saw during the last couple, but not really. This one was relatively light. I still enjoyed it though, and there's plenty of stuff to talk about. We opened the episode in the hospital, and right away, I wrote down I love the animation a whole bunch of times. The window shot as we see Aki is really cool, and then Denji, like with the apples and stuff, that was really cool. And then, like later on, there's also a scene where, I don't know who put this in. I'm gonna be talking about this a lot this episode, so prepare yourself. There is a shot where we see a light bulb, and it actually has a reflection and everything. And it's literally like at the corner of the screen where nobody would see it. And I was just sitting there and thinking, who thought that you had to put that in there? Literally nobody would notice. Are you just flexing on us at this point? It very much seemed like that, and there are lots of these in this episode where there are like mirrors and stuff. There are lots of reflections, lots of mirrors, and lots of stuff like that in this one, which I absolutely loved. Obviously, with Denji and Power, it's their dynamic duo again. They start fighting. Power wants an apple, and Denji just says, yeah, it's not for cowards who run away from fights. Which, I guess it was just that. Power literally just ran away. I thought there would be something more to it. I thought we would see some implications of that. I thought Makima would be mad about it. But I guess not. I guess she just ran away and that's it. But yeah, no fallout. We moved past all of that, I guess. Which is okay. Because obviously I got out my tinfoil and I started talking about how maybe there's like something with Power and with the gun devil, and then maybe Makima would know something or something like that. I don't know. We didn't really see any of that. We just skipped past all of that, and Denji is just like, yeah, you're a coward, you ran away, and we don't really linger on it that much. So, it is what it is. But then, Aki wakes up, and it basically becomes his episode right here. Obviously, Denji and Power would have their B-plot, but I do think this is basically Aki's episode. And I loved it. Aki is still one of my favorites, and based on what happens in this episode, I have a feeling that that will remain the case for a very, very long time. But yeah, he asks who's still alive, and Denji then confirms that it's just the scaredy girl and the guy with glasses who quit last time. And here, I wrote down, is the dude in the glasses going to come back to bite her? Sus that he's suddenly mentioned again despite having zero significance before. So, now I got to wondering. The fact that he quit, and the fact that he talked directly to Makima, seems sus for it not to be important. If I were to make a prediction, I think he's going to come back into the story, and something that he knows is going to be instrumental in fighting against Makima. That's my prediction. In terms of Aki is absolutely messed up. And then, of course, we see Denji leave him the apple and just walk out himself. That was really sad. And the fact that we later also see Denji like standing at the doors and hearing him crying. I mean. The fact that we've already seen like some of Aki's backstory, and now he's losing another crewmate, it's rough. It's rough. I feel bad for him. And again, I wrote down the detail outside of the window. And yeah, here's the look at the reflective light bulb. I'll have all of these up on YouTube so you'll see what I'm talking about. But like, whoever is doing these is just like, yeah, you know what? Aki is just sitting, right? So I might as well just scribble some things in the background. And then they just do this huge flex. And I love it. Also, I wrote down, listen to the ambiance, the cars, etc., etc. This is so good. This is something I've noticed. The sound design here, especially when it comes to like cityscapes, especially when it comes to like them somewhere like, it was I think in episode 2 or 3, where Denji and Power went on their little mission, right? And then we heard like those cicadas and everything like that. It's these little details in the background that I can't help but notice, and I love them. I wish more shows would put like extra attention to these sorts of little immersive details. Because here again, as Aki just sits there alone, and we just hear the cars zooming past and all that, I think there is an argument to be made that we could start like delving into Aki's thought process, right? And then the cars are sort of signifying just the world zooming past him and all that, and you could try to do this sort of very literally analysis. But whatever the case, I just like the fact that they were there. And then, probably the best thing in this entire thing is Aki calling on the Cursed Devil, where I just wrote down, bro, that looks so badass, when it just like pops up behind him. That was really, really cool. But then we hear that he has 2 years left. And here I got to wondering, this must be an absolute thing, right? If it says that he has 2 years left, then that must be like a fact, right? This isn't like a, oh, you're cursed to die in 2 years, but you might somehow push that off. The fact that he does make a deal with the Time Devil at the end of the episode, those 2 years might suddenly become longer or maybe shorter. Who knows? Who knows? I do think that the Time Devil and the fact that we get his remaining lifespan here is sort of sus. It might be nothing. Whenever we have timey-wimey shenanigans, I want to think about them, because it's timey-wimey shenanigans. In terms of him breaking down crying, I also wrote down the voice acting is so good. Just the slow descent as he just subtly breaks down, and then we even get like these tiny little details. He just bites his lip and stuff. It's so raw and real. I can't help but appreciate it. It's not your typical when you just scream as loud as you can, right? It's this very, very depressing breakdown, for lack of a better word. But in terms of Denji, on the other side of the window, not the window, the doors. Here I wrote down again, the window shot, right? I've been talking about cinematography a lot, and this is something that people over at MAPPA, whoever is directing these episodes, they like doing. We get a lot of these shots through windows, and we get another one here. But the thing is, it is like in a sunset, and the reflections and the shadows and everything, it's so ridiculously detailed. Can I please just get a brand new Death Note series with MAP animating it? That is all I want. I want more series with this sort of art style that are down to earth, set in reality, but they have some sort of twist, right? That's what I want. And these episodes, like, as a side note, you might think I'm kidding, but it took me over 40 minutes to get through this episode, because I was constantly stopping and taking notes about single frames. You might think I'm lying. I'm skipping past a lot of them. I have a lot of notes. I'm taking very diligent notes nowadays, but I just can't help but stop and look at it, because it's like, the amount of detail they put into literally every single 3-second scene, it's ridiculous. And then there are people complaining online. Makes me so mad. Makes me very, very mad. But it is what it is. The thing I found interesting here with Denji, though, aside from the animation, of course, he sits there, he listens to Aki cry, and then he's like, why don't I feel bad? Would I feel bad if he died? Would I feel bad if Power died? No, not really. And then even about Makima, he says that, yeah, I'd probably be shaken up, but I'd probably be fine in like 3 days as long as I had food. And this seemed very sus. Is this Denji being Denji? Or is something in him changing? Because later in the episode, we'd also hear who, by the way, at this point, I give people nicknames because I don't remember their real names. So the dude, the training dude, I called him Levi, just because he kind of looks like Levi. He kind of acts like Levi. He gives me Levi vibes, so he's Levi. And the training dude would later like talk about how Power is semi-immortal, that she's like a half-devil and blah 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 blah. So there I was wondering whether something in Denji is changing now that he has absorbed Pochita. I don't think so, because to me, like, Denji has always sort of been like this. And the whole Makima thirsty boy thing was sort of just that, a very thirsty boy thing. So, I don't know. Could be me wrapping up in tinfoil a little too much. And also, right after this, when we see the 2 new characters, like the ones with matching scars, they go to see Aki, and this is what I was talking about. In the background, there is a mirror, and it's accurate. It's actually accurate. And I was just wondering to myself, Why? Why did somebody give themselves extra work? But in terms of what they're doing here, at first, I thought that, you know, their role is sort of that they were these advisors or whatever. And I was like, okay, what does that mean? Right? But at the end of the episode, it does seem like they hold a little more power than I thought initially. So I'm curious to see how they play into all of this. Because with the whole advising angle, I thought, okay, what would they do? Could they overlook something? Could they, like, administrate something? But no, they're like, okay, so you want to kill more devils? Well, you're gonna have to get more powerful. So we're advising you to get a much stronger devil. It might potentially kill you, but we're gonna do it. So they are much more important than I thought, which is also interesting. Makima leads Denji and Power through the graveyard, which we've already seen numerous times. And then she says that, yeah, based on what we found out, Denji is clearly the target. We already know that. And then she announces that he will train them, the Levi-looking dude. And here, we get one of the most tropey scenes you could possibly get, but I love it. Because he asks him 3 questions. Obviously, the answers Power and Denji give are the complete opposite of what normal people would say. But he says, like, yep, that's a perfect score. That's exactly what I wanted. You didn't need to care about your friends. You didn't need to care about revenge. And frankly, you can be on whatever side you want. These are the type of people I want. You got the perfect score. And obviously, they're both like, what are you talking about? And then he chokes him out. He breaks their necks. And that's the end of that. I mean, I want to know more about him, basically. Because in this episode, he flexed on them so many times. So many times. I want to know what his deal is. Because he says that he is the most powerful devil hunter. Is that true? But yeah. So here we also hear, I guess, confirm that he's never trained devils. And here he also says, yeah, he's the strongest devil hunter. And his goal is to hunt them until they can defeat him. They both try to catch him off guard. They get annihilated. And then he basically says, yeah, you're immortal, Power semi-immortal. And a whole bunch of fun time begins between them. I love this little part of the episode. And I hope we get to see more. The second mission, Power and Denji tries. We'll talk about that in a second, but that was brilliant. But returning to Aki, we see that the Fox Devil no longer responds to him. So I guess it broke the contract, or did Aki break the contract? Well, whatever the case, they're no longer working together. I don't really know how exactly that works, but that's what happened. And I guess we're no longer going to, but actually, no, we are. One of them had, oh no, they're dead. So, are we not going to see the Fox Devil anymore? Because I think the dude had the Fox Devil, but he's dead now. Unfortunate. Unfortunate. But yeah, here the career advisors say that Aki needs to either quit or make a contract with stronger devils. Aki gives them the good old death stare. He says he can't quit while those who killed his family and then partner are alive. And so he's in it for the long haul. And I guess just to make this whole thing less disjointed, soon thereafter, we hear that he's going to make another contract and that it's going to be quote-unquote brutal. So, whatever the case, it's gonna be pretty bad. But we also get a scene of what I assume to be Eyepatch Girl's sister coming to visit him. The letters he gets are so sad. She like wrote all of these to home, right? And we go through them and I was like, okay, what am I looking for in these? And she talks about family, she talks about her life, she talks about like a whole bunch of, is like dad taking his meds and stuff like that. And then suddenly, how can I get Aki to quit? And I was like, oh no, why do you do this to me? That was really, really sad. And I like that they did, like sort of they used this little letter thing to make you feel even worse for everything going on. And even worse for Eyepatch Girl, and even worse for Aki, and basically everyone. It's just a solid, sad little moment. And I love that. I love myself a good tragedy. But the question I have is, what's up with her sister? Is she like gonna pop up again? Or is this just salt in the wound? Who knows? Yeah, let's just wrap up Aki's story in this one. So, Aki is going to make a contract with the Future Devil, right? And we hear that 2 people already have a contract with it, and then he gets locked in the dungeon. Now, first of all, the facility they go into is unlike anything I expected. I don't know what I thought. Honestly, if you asked me how I thought it worked, I probably wouldn't have even thought about it, and I wouldn't have an answer for you. But the fact that, like, when they go to make these contracts, the devils are literally locked up. I don't know why that was never even a possibility in my mind. I always thought that it was just sort of, what's the word? Like, not paranormal, but like, whatever the case. You're not like actually talking to someone. I didn't think that they were like legitimately in front of you and you just talk to them. I thought everything about it was sort of mystical and magical, but I guess not. They're just being held in this huge vault. And I'm curious whether, because again, my brain, when I think about these sorts of things, you introduce a vault, the vault must be important. Otherwise, it wouldn't have been a vault, right? It would have happened somewhere else. It would have happened probably a lot more straightforward. So, all of these devils are locked up in one place. Are they all gonna get unleashed? Is something gonna happen with that? Seems quite odd. Seems quite odd. We'll see what happens with that. I definitely raised an eyebrow to that. As for the Future Devil, what powers is it going to have? Frankly, I've got no idea. If it's something timey-wimey, then that'd be pretty cool. I feel like in a series like Chainsaw Man, I wouldn't even be against some sort of time magic a la JoJo. If he suddenly yells the world, or made in heaven, or whatever the case, I'm not going to be against it. I'm going to be perfectly happy, and I'm excited to see what that is. As to when we're going to see it, at this point, I really couldn't tell you. I don't know if we've already seen the extent of Denji's arc or not, in terms of like their little training arc, because so far, even with the fights, some of the fights have been like, we show you the beginning, and then we skip forward, right? And we just don't linger on it that much. So it might also be the case with Denji's little training arc, right? That we've seen them do it, and then we skip forward. And we just assume that, yeah, it continued on time after time. So I don't really know that much what to expect. And whether or not we're going to have another huge fight before the end of the core, frankly, I have zero predictions when it comes to the long game. I know Makima is sus, and that's all I know, basically. As to how we're going to arrive at the conclusion that Makima is the villain, I guess only time will tell. But in terms of, like, the big story on Denji's side, obviously we saw them get killed once. Again, we time skip, right? And we see Denji laying on the ground, and Power just starts bashing his head, saying that his brain broke. Oh, and also, he's been killed at least 20 times today. So here I got to wondering. Is this a joke? Is this a stupid little joke about Power thinking that Denji's brain broke? Or is there something more to it? What if, when a devil dies enough times, something about it begins to break? Something along those lines. I thought this was kind of odd. Might just be me reading into things that are not there. Because I found the whole scene just a little bit bizarre. Because obviously with Denji and Power, we do get these chaotic dynamics, right? Where they either attack each other, they call each other names, they're generally not very nice to each other, they have that weird energy between them. But her just lunging on top of him and bashing his face in? Then we obviously see them walk together, and they're like, okay, you know what? We're gonna beat him with our brains. And then I just wrote down, LMAO, we do have 2 Nobel Prize winners after all. I'm kind of surprised they didn't bring it up. That seemed like the perfect callback to that little joke about them winning Nobel Prizes. But alas. I always found it weird that devil contracts would be with a free devil that walks around, so it makes sense that they were locked up. Also, a nod to that Aki was saying the Fox Devil body was in Kyoto. Yeah, I'm curious to see like how that whole. I mean, I've said this a million times already. I just want to know more about how the power system actually works, basically. Because right now, like, the only concrete thing we really know is that the more you fear it, like, the more powerful it becomes, right? Well, then, we do know a few things about the contracts, right? That you can have more than one, etc., etc., and that you must pay a price. But I just want to have a proper deep dive into how these sorts of things work. And I feel like with Aki now making a new deal in front of us, we might actually get to see the deal take place. Which I'm very, very interested in. I want to see what happens there. I like how the devils have personality and agency, like how the fox devil cares about the looks of the user. This is something I really like. When you have these sorts of powers, I want there to be some sort of kiss-curse interaction, right? That's usually like my favorite way of going about these things. Most series have at least some. I can't really think of many that don't have any at all. Because, I mean, obviously there is balancing the power, and then there is deliberately sort of doing something bad that you have the power. And I feel like this sort of dynamic interaction that you have with your own power is really interesting, and I'm curious to see how that plays out. Because obviously with Denji and with even Power, it's sort of a moot point. But with everybody that has a contract, yeah, it's like you say. I want to see how their, I guess, partnership, what else would you call it? How these partnerships look like. And I'm very interested in seeing the Future Devil. Just the name of it alone, the Future Devil, it sounds cool. I want to know what it is. I want to know its abilities. And I'm also curious whether it's going to slice off even more of Aki's life. It could be an interesting thing that we know that he has 2 years left now. It could be an interesting thing if we just start getting like explicit days, how many he has left, and then we sort of actually lead up to that day, but we don't know what's gonna happen, right? We just hear that Aki has 1 day left, and then everybody's like, well, Aki, you're gonna die, right? And then that day arrives, and it turns out that something has gone horribly wrong, and Makima kills all of them. It's Makima. It was Makima all along. She squishes them like she did those dudes. Anyway, dumb theories aside, I said this was Aki's episode, right? I did say that, and I loved everything on Aki's side, but I've got to be honest. When we cut to Denji and Power, and both of them are wearing glasses, and they say that they're going to outsmart them, it's the most silly thing ever, and I loved it. I loved it. I loved how over the top the whole thing was. And I love that they actually thought it would work. That's probably the thing I enjoyed the most. How confident they were in this plan. Like, even with the bottles. And also, when Levi, like, goes around and kicks him in the face, the fact that we got an instant replay, like 3 times, where he just gets snapped out of existence, was glorious. And frankly, we need more of these. I love when anime does this. When somebody does something really, really cool, and then we see it multiple times from different angles, I love that. And this was perfect. And then how casually, he's just like, yeah, Power used too much blood and now she's anemic, she's just bleeding on the floor. Denji, you just didn't predict my attack. And then he like walks away, saying that, yeah, we're done for today. Of course we're not. Of course we're not. Dude turns around and throws a knife in Denji's face and is like, never underestimate your enemy. I love this dude so much. And I'm sorry. For the 50th millionth time, a new character is introduced, and I immediately like them more than Denji. Denji and Power as a duo are incredible, but them on their own, I'm not really a fan of either one of them, to be honest, when they're on their own. I feel like they need some other character to play off of, especially Denji. When Denji's alone and he's just morbid time, I find that kind of boring, if I'm being honest. In terms of my favorite characters, obviously Eyepatch Girl is dead, so there's not much else to say there. But Aki and Levi are near the top at this point. Can't wait to see what this is all about, and I can't wait to see whether Levi actually starts taking a role in what we see on the regular, or whether he's just this character that sometimes pops up, because he's clearly overpowered. If he really is the most powerful, then having him by our side sort of negates the whole purpose of the series a little bit. So I guess we're gonna see how that plays out. In terms of the ending, this is ending 10. I'm gonna be honest, I wasn't super into this one. The song, at first, I hated the song. I was like, what is this? What is this? I really don't like the song. But the second verse was pretty good. It was pretty good. It felt way too upbeat, though. Judging by how depressing this episode was, especially like on Aki's side, it seemed way too upbeat. I don't know. The visuals in this one, too. Obviously, this entire thing was mixed reality, right? It was actually recorded things in the real world, and it had this sort of overlaid thing to make it look like it's mixed reality, and then sometimes actually hand-drawn things popped into it. I found that sort of cool, but as a whole, this is probably not one of my favorites, like, at all. The mixed reality parts, where we actually see 2D hand-drawn things mixed in, I like that, but when we just, like, went down the street, and it's just like an IRL shot that is overlaid with a whole bunch of filters, I didn't like it. I didn't like it. It's unique, but I don't dig it. I don't dig it. I wish we got to see more mixed reality in the ending, rather than just actual reality that is filtered, right? Because there's like a little shot in this one we get, where we see like an apartment, and then there are like a couple of dogs, and Denji pets one of them. That was cool. Because there we sort of actually see two mediums clashed into one. But everything else, it looked like... Like, I don't want to dunk on anybody's art, but some of these shots looked like when I am editing a video, and I'm like, oh hey, I want to make an image look really cool, and so then I go through a whole bunch of effects one by one, and one of them just messes up and inverts all the colors and turns everything grayscale, and the outlines are suddenly like very bold, and I'm like, what the hell happened? Some of these shots look like that, and I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan. If I had to go overall, this is probably my least favorite one. But yeah, that is the episode. We've been flying a little all over the place, to be fair, with this one. But as I said, it tells two stories at the same time, which is sort of unlike what we've done before. Alright, have a good one. Bye-bye.